then the timer went off. It couldn't have been timed more perfect. Something that came up, and this is something where we might want to get active on it. The county has an application into the State Transportation Infrastructure Bank for a road widening project over there on 183. And it would require the county to match $14 million for that project. Now that's $14 million of county money that would go for a state road. Keep in mind, we've had 2 gas tax increases where they've taken in hundreds of millions off the first one and haven't spent it yet. And it's going to take a while for any project to actually get started. So they're going to have hundreds of millions more. But this would have the county going $14 million of tax money that's paid to the county for a state project. And that's $14 million that could be used for fire departments, law enforcement, landfill, county needs. So we may end up deciding if we can win a battle or not. We may want to challenge the county council on that if they go through with it. First of all, it hasn't been authorized or approved yet. So, don't get worked up yet. Next is, anybody here running for a city office? Ed, you look like the only one. Would you like to speak for a minute? Introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Ed Leese. I live up here on Cowlilly Court. I'm running for Pickens City Council. It's my 3rd go around. First time was a write-in. It was an absolute failure. Didn't know what I was doing. Second one, I got a little bit smarter and learned to really meet people, make relationships and things like that. Now this 3rd time around is I'm meeting all sorts of people, coming to meetings like this, meeting others who are running, and currently a friend of mine who owns a Burgess & Taylor general store down there, we've started a podcast on Monday mornings, and we're interviewing people who are running for office. I think there's definitely a solidarity between the candidates right now within the city. I mean, just down the street where we're all going to be. Solidarity such as moving forward, things that are going to happen, and strangely enough, some that have the same ideas that could group together and actually make something like this happen for Pickens, because Pickens is Pickens. We're kind of a touristy place right now. We're trying to be, but not too touristy like we were talking about earlier today. There's just going to be a lot of stuff going on. There's even talk of an Amazon warehouse being put in at OWT now. So that was released like 2 days ago or so, and the guy who's running the place gave me the permission to talk about it on the podcast and everything. But if you guys ever check it out, the podcast is called Around Pickens, and if you go to the first episode all the way at the end, I just say what I stand for and what we're looking for. And the one thing that we all want is honesty, openness, and transparency. And that's something that you just don't get. I'm trying to convince constituents that when I talk to them that I represent them to council. And a lot of the time they have this perception of you're part of a city government and we have to look to you and you're part of them this way. And I'm not like that. I'm lock arms with you. I go to bat for you as your attorney, or if there's something going on that you can't get fixed or whatever, my policy is you call me. I'm a homeschool educator, so I'm home all the time, and I'm in the community a lot. You call me, I come to your house, I'll be there in 10 minutes, and you write your list of woes out and everything, and then we go to the meeting together and we get it done. We get answers, whether they're going to table it, they're going to talk about it, they're going to do whatever, or just tell you to come back next month. That's what I'm about. Actually keeping up with the promises that you promised, not just saying I'm going to do this and we're going to have these meetings and everything's going to be done behind closed doors. I'm willing to hold a quarterly meeting with myself and just talk about what's going on for those who are interested. If we could even get people to come to the meetings, I find myself a lot that I'm the only guy who's sitting there. Or even writing out a quarterly, news, like a news brief to what's going on. A lot of people are just either misinformed or they just don't know a lot of what's happening, and then you kind of get 1 degree away from truth, and before you know it's the Chinese telephone thing, and you got, what was my example, that city council's building spaceships in Selma now. So people get this direction wrong, and rumors happen, and that is like the worst thing possible. So for me, I'd love to see people come to the meetings. I'd love to be there with them at the meetings. I'd love to go to bat for them at the meetings. And I mean, I've lived in Pickens County since 1999. I was born and raised up north, but I sort of come with a tenacity to desire to see the end of it, not just the idea, not just talking about it, but actually doing it. Like when somebody says, yeah, we'll pray for you, and I'm like, how about now? Like right now, let's actually do that right now and get it done. You know, we can mark that off the list and move on, you know. And as for Pickens, we don't have to make the mistakes that other cities have done. There's been some small mistakes and things in Travelers Rest, some things that maybe they shouldn't have done in Greenville and Hendersonville, because we're kind of on this touristy thing right now. We don't really have those awesome, you know, high quantity, high quality jobs right now. But if we can learn from other people's mistakes, we don't have to make those. We save time, we save money, we save effort, we save, you know, things that really matter in the long run. And not just thinking about what can we do for my lifespan right now, but for the next 2 or 3 generations. You know, I went to the county meeting and they're talking about 324 units maybe being built up on the hill over there by Masters. And my idea would be to get ahead of the curve. If this is actually going to be a thing, I know they tried to glass him out and got shot down, but if this is actually going to be a thing, that we as a city can get ahead of the curve, we can get everything ready for them, from clothes to food to entertainment to whatever it is, so they can come back to this oasis of the city of Pickens. You know, stuff for them to do, stuff for their kids to do, their grandkids to do, you know. And maybe they have to go work in Greenville, unfortunately, or they have to work wherever else, but they can come back here and know that it's a comfortable place to live. And for me, I want to have both hands in on that to make it great for everybody.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
I don't know, can you?
You mentioned OWT as a warehouse for Amazon.
Right.
That sounds really good. Are
Right.
they going through the Commerce Park down there to get that in, or are they doing?
I have no idea about this. This is from the second guy down who said, yeah, you can talk about it and kind of let that out. A handful, now 2 handfuls of people know that. That's what they're shooting for. And in the next 2 or 3 weeks, Amazon folk are coming down and they're walking through, and if they like the facility, it's a go. If it's not, then there's already 3 other companies that are thinking about going in there. So it's could be something really good.
Thanks, Bud. Okay, the news, all the TV talk shows, all the radio talk shows, editorials, everything's about red flag laws. And whenever you hear about new laws being proposed, you gotta wonder what already exists. So we talked, and last week we asked if Sheriff Clark, you could come and speak to us about what law enforcement already can and cannot do with regard to taking somebody's firearms if they're considered a danger. So I'm going to quit talking, and Sheriff Clark, help educate us.
Thank you, sir. Now I got my phone out because John L. said I had 5 minutes. So I'm going, no, she said 5. I'm going to start it right now.
You could have my 5.
Believe it or not, the South Carolina law, let me get where I don't make so much scramble in here. The South Carolina law is actually pretty good it gives us options, but it also will protect everything. And I think some of the way to talk about this is, if my voice goes in and out, I've had bronchitis and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so what we're really, to give you kind of an overall view of it, is can we come in and take your gun right then? No, you can't. So the key to it, and what makes it best for South Carolina, is if we, and when we say we, mostly we're talking about families. We want somebody in there with us as partners on this. If we need to take or have somebody say that we need to take their gun because they're a danger to themselves or somebody else, we have to go through the court system. So let's go through a scenario, and back me up or tell me if I get something wrong here. Haven't done mental transport in quite a while. So what happens is, okay, we say the family has concerns about somebody who has guns, and I'm kind of going over a family here in Pickens that we talked about a while back. So it was alcoholic, had problems, and had a lot of guns, and they were scared, they came to. And I said, well, here's what we need to do. I'm going to be there with you through the process. I got my angle right now, I think. So, but here we're going to go through the process. But what needs to happen is we don't need to do it. The family has to go and really fill out an affidavit to the mental health is where most of the time it starts, our probate court. So they fill out and explain why they think that is. And they will take them, and if all that matches up, the judge believes so, they'll have them process for evaluation, mental evaluation. Now, if we're out on the scene, let's say we're just out 3 o'clock in the morning, we run across somebody who's very obviously had a mental breakdown or things like that. We can take them, so they have a gun too. Our first thing is de-escalation, like we always try to do. Get the gun separated away from them so we can make sure that they're safe and we're safe. So what we would do, the gun would go with us if they had to go to the hospital, but it's in evidence. So if they come out not adjudicated through that process, then the gun goes straight back to them. But probably in the meantime, we're trying to get that gun back to their family or something. But if it is adjudicated of where they cannot control or have a firearm by the court system, not us, we don't decide it, the court system does, usually probate or general sessions. So that gives a judicial watch in there for the whole thing, and I think it works out good. So anytime that we seize a gun or anything, that it has to be through, say something like that scenario, there has to be some type of immediate danger to people. And that's but when we get it, we put it in evidence, and we're really looking to get it back to whoever it belongs to after they've been adjudicated, or give it to a family member if nobody's been shot or assaulted or anything like that. So that's why it comes in here. And also, the state law now is called, talking about definitions. When all this happens, say the person has been found, the judge has serious concerns, mental health, evaluation and all that, they become adjudicated as a mental defective. That's just a legal term. It says means a determination by a court of competent jurisdiction that a person, as a result of marked subnormal intelligence, mental illness, mental incompetency, mental condition, or mental disease, or is a danger to himself or others. So it's spelled out pretty well in here exactly of what we can do and how we assess that. And those things I just read will be assessed by a judge and psychologist or psychiatrist. And it also talks about finding by an insanity by a court in a criminal case also. And these persons found incompetent to stand trial or found not guilty by reason of lack of mental responsibility pursuant to Articles 50 and 72. And things like that, this talks about military people also can be brought in. But that's talking about committing. So overall, it's set up pretty good. We never go out on the call or want to get a gun or see a gun, as a matter of fact. But when we do, we have evidence procedure